It's raining today, it's grey and it's cold, which seems like a very good time to talk about loneliness on the road. I was on Reddit last night, browsing the cycle touring sub, as I often do, and someone on there was saying how they were on their first solo tour, I think, and they wanted to know how other people stop themselves getting lonely and how they deal with it when it does happen. Now, it's not really something that I've ever suffered with particularly. I guess I'm an introvert in the sense that I enjoy social situations and solitude equally, but it's the social situations that I find draining and the solitude that charges me back up again. But that said, I think to be able to spend long periods of time on your own and never feel a little touch of loneliness, you'd have to be some kind of weird sociopath or something. So what would you do about it? I think there's really two ways you can come at it. You either try and stop yourself getting lonely in the first place, or you satisfy it when it does happen. The thing about loneliness, I suppose, is that it draws you back into yourself and away from the real world, which is where you're supposed to be. So if you're going to go down the first route, if you're going to try and stop yourself getting lonely, you need things that pull you back out of your head and that ground you in the here and the now and where you are and what you're doing. So I think writing is very good. Write a journal. If you're not much of a writer, just take notes. Make bullet points of the things you've seen, the places you've been, just how it made you feel, what you ate, how far you rode. All those little details are good because they pull you out. I have a sketchbook. I sometimes just sit and I sketch whatever's in front of me where I sit. I'm no good at sketching, doesn't matter because no one else is ever going to see it. It's just a sort of focusing, grounding thing that I enjoy doing. Similarly, I have in the past written some poems, which no one will ever hear, most of which I've forgotten, but they focus you. These days it's mostly these videos that do that job. They take quite a lot of time, quite a lot of thought. They keep you looking around, always on the lookout for something that might make a nice shot or something you could talk about. And then in the evenings, which is the time when you're probably most likely to feel lonely, I suppose, in your tent, that's when I do my editing and my uploading. And then once they're uploaded, I tend to get a few comments. And it's a one-sided conversation really, but it's better than nothing. I think it really is just about keeping yourself in the moment. And all of these things, you will thank yourself for doing it, because in years to come, you'll look back over your journal or your notes or your sketchbook or the videos you made and the photos you took, and you will come across things which you have forgotten, things which will have been lost to time if you hadn't made a note of them. So I think all of that stuff is good, even if you're not feeling lonely. It's great to keep those records, because while you're out here, it keeps you in the here and now, and in the future it can bring you back to it, which is quite nice. So the other side of this then is, if you are lonely and you really need to satisfy that loneliness, then the easiest thing to do, I guess, if you've got a mobile phone, phone someone, call someone up and have a chat. If you haven't got reception, maybe you've got some data, write an email, write some WhatsApp messages. Again, it checks all the things that I talked about just now. It makes you think about where you are, what you're doing, how you're feeling, which is great. It's all good stuff. That's why you're out here, to have those experiences. So send them home. Even if you just compose an email and then set it up to send next time you hit data, it's still some kind of contact. But if you really, really just need to talk to some humans and look them in the eye, then, I mean, I find sometimes just going into a town with my bike, standing in the square and looking a bit lost will usually solicit at least a sort of hello, how you doing kind of chat, which is nice. The right type of bars and cafes will often get someone talking. You know, people like a traveller. People see you on your bike with all your bags and they seem to want to know where you're from, where you're going, where you've been. That's always good. Campsites are similar, but what I have found is that with all of these things, campsites and bars and cafes and what have you, people are very often already in their own little groups. They're on their own holidays. They've got their own agendas. They don't necessarily want to risk starting a conversation with some random traveller who might turn out to be a weirdo. I'm talking to you. The best place that I've ever found for striking up random travelling relationships is hostels. If you can check into a hostel for a couple of nights, then do it. You'll get all the luxurious things of showers and a nice bed and warmth and chairs to sit on and a kitchen to cook in. But mostly you will be thrown in with a load of other travellers usually. You know, often people travelling solo, all ages, all kinds of people. And they'll generally have their own travelling stories and they'll be on their way somewhere themselves and they'll be up for chatting. I've always enjoyed hostels hugely. I've made some good friends in them. And I think that's your best bet. But of course, the other way to look at it all is to embrace it, you know? We live in a crazy, crazy, hectic, busy world. I mean, more so for some people than others, I suppose. But there's a good chance that you spend a lot of your time in towns and cities, in traffic, on public transport, in offices, having meetings, deadlines, responsibilities, blah, 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 hustle, hustle, hustle. So, small quantities of loneliness aren't going to kill you. You know, use the time. Think about things. Think about nothing. Just listen to the wheels going round. Philosophize about things. How do you feel about religion, veganism, Brexit? You know, have some little internal dialogues. How do you feel about the world? How do you feel about this right now? How do you feel about your job, your relationships? It's the best time in the world for doing all that stuff because you've got nothing else to fill the space. And a lot of people never get that. They live their lives at top speed whether they want to or not. So my advice would be just drink it in. You're not going to be lonely for long. You know, if you're out touring, you'll be home in months at the most, and you'll get to see all your friends again, you'll get to see your significant others again and your families, and it'll be great. It'll be better than it was before because you won't have seen them for ages, and they'll have loads of questions and loads of things will have happened to them and loads of things will have happened to you, and you'll just be able to sink back into that and enjoy it. And for a while you'll ask yourself why you ever went out in the first place when all this is here, all this wonderful stuff that you had that you maybe didn't even realise how good it was. And for a while you'll just wallow in comfort and friends and social situations. And then, depending on your nature, after a few weeks or a few months, you'll find yourself looking at maps again, wondering where you're going to go next, and thinking about how nice it is sometimes to just be a little bit lonely.